Hello, welcome to the AJ Review Show, episode 7. Another 3 films for you this week. I would say all 3 of them are funny films, all 3 of them are fun and quite light-hearted films, similar to last week. One of them is a standout. Actually, one of them isn't funny. 2 of them are funny, one of them isn't funny, one of them's just a straight action film. One of them's an action funny film, one of them's like a thriller that's funny. So they're all very entertaining. 3 entertaining films. I'm not going to go off on a tangent. 3 very entertaining films. Quite different from one another. There is a link between 2 of them again, although this one I think is pretty obvious, but see if you can spot it for yourself. And without any further deliberations, let's get straight into the first film.
This entire nature preserve was donated by the Leopold. It's truly untouched by man.
And the film you've just seen is Death of a Unicorn. So to set the scene for you, the film follows a father and a daughter and a father, Ridley and Elliot, played by Paul Rudd and Jenna Ortega. They're taking a drive up to Paul Rudd's, Elliot's boss's place for the weekend to try and... Basically, Paul Rudd wants to become like a partner at this big medical care firm. And they're taking a drive up, and Paul Rudd's not really paying attention to the road. He's trying to get a signal on his phone, but the phone keeps bugging out. And Jenna Ortega's not being particularly helpful. Ridley's not being particularly helpful. And they hit something in the road. Both of them freak out immediately, and they're like, oh, God. Like, what is it? It looks like a horse. They go over. Turns out it's not a horse, because the film is not called Death of a Horse. It's called Death of a Unicorn. So they kill this unicorn. And they actually do kill it. Like, he hits it with his car, and it's still sort of like bugging, and it's alive on the floor. And Paul Rudd comes with a extendable wrench and beats the crap out of it. They load it into the car. They drive up to the house where they meet the rest of the family. And between the rest of the family, who's made up of Richard E. Grant, Tia Leone, and Will Poulter, they basically are deciding what to do with it. So really good cast. Also, Anthony Carrigan and Jessica Hines, who I wouldn't really expect you to recognise their names. This reference is really made for one person only. This is made for my brother. Anthony Carrigan is from Gotham. He's Victor Zsasz. He plays Griff in the film. He's kind of arguably one of the best characters. But yeah, he's in Gotham. So if you've seen Gotham, though, you'll get that reference as well. And Jessica Hines, for all of your Cornetto trilogy fans out there, all of your Simon Pegg and Nick Frost films, Shaun of the Dead, Jessica Hines is the girl that Shaun ends up with, or the girl that you think Shaun should end up. Basically, the female version of Shaun in Shaun of the Dead, this is her in this. So also, like I said, you've got Paul Rudd, who you'll know from Ant-Man, Ghostbusters, Afterlife, and Anchorman, very well known these days. Jenna Ortega sort of began to emerge out a lot more this year. Wednesday, Beetlejuice, and X. Very interesting film, X, actually. That whole trilogy I particularly enjoy. And then you've got Richard E. Grant from Can You Ever Give Me, With Now, and the Horrid Henry movie. I only put the Horrid Henry movie in there because it's kind of like one of the few ones I actually recognise. Though I feel I've seen him in so many different films, there actually wasn't a great deal to pick from, which seems weird because he's such a renowned name. Tia Leone, who you would definitely recognise, she's from Family Man, Jurassic Park 3 and Bad Boys, just a very recognisable face. And obviously Will Poulter, Guardians of the Galaxy 3, We're the Millers and Maze Runner, and he plays Shepard in the film. So, I think Will Poulter is just, again, his stock just seems to keep going up and up. He was very, very good in Guardians of the Galaxy. He's very much leaning into his sort of the comedy aspect of what he does, and I enjoy a lot of what his work is, and I think he's probably going to go somewhere. So anyway, between this whole cast of people, they're going to decide to do what with the animal. Obviously, I'm not going to spoil anything, but things do not turn out the way you would want, and everything gets thrown around and mixed up and dispersed everywhere, and you are left wondering a little bit at times what is going on. It's enjoyable, like you're not lost or anything, but it is like, wow, okay. I want to talk about this at the start because I don't want to forget. There definitely is some deeper themes and ideas in this film. So the whole idea of the unicorn is kind of supposed to represent as like a very, very extended metaphor, like the whole environment. And that sometimes you should just leave things alone. You know, there's this great big nature reserve that this house is on that they've all gone to. And they want to hunt and they want to kill stuff. They're a money greedy family. They're all very, very power hungry. But I think the unicorn is supposed to represent the environment and how actually some things are best left alone, and maybe we should stop messing with the environment as much as we are. I'm not going on a political rant, I'm not doing that here, but I think there is supposed to be a metaphor behind that. But the film is very, very fun to watch. There's a lot of hijinks, there's a lot of stupidity in the film.
The fuck was that?
Must be moose mating season or something.
I really don't want to try and spoil it, but obviously things are not what they appear to be. You get a little bit of a deeper dive into Paul Rudd's character at times as well, and why it's just the two of them, where's Paul Rudd's wife, and why him and General Ortega's relationship, why Elliot and Ridley's relationship seems strained, to say the least at times. But along with the humour and the good times, there is a few tension scenes where they're deciding on the fate of the unicorn, and you get to see the characters and the greediness of certainly Richard Grant, Tia, and Will's characters. You get to see them come out particularly in this. I want to talk about performances as well, just quickly. So this is going to be very unpopular. I don't know if anyone else said anything. I try not to read too many other people's reviews before, because you come here to hear my opinions, not me just regurgitating somebody else's stuff. I didn't enjoy Paul Rudd in this. I know, I'm sorry, but he was very rigid in the film. I feel like he plays around with the material a bit more. Maybe it was a particularly tight script or schedule or something like that, but he just seemed very sort of robotic. There were scenes that I thought he would bring a little bit more emotion where he doesn't, which I thought was very strange. The relationship between him and his daughter is good, but it's limited. I really felt like he could have done a lot more with the character, and I don't understand why. He's not bad in it, it's very rigid from him. It seems like he is just sort of like reading the lines. General Ortega plays the caring daughter role very well, however. At her age currently, she's only 22, which I don't know if I thought she was older, I don't know if they thought she was younger, I'm not really sure, but she's perfect for this role. She brings the heart of the film. She's the only person in it who cares about the unicorn. Well, her and Griff. Anthony Carrigan and Jessica Hines are the staff there. So they are the butler and security. And they also have a bit more heart. They're not as ruthless as the actual family. But between Anthony Carrigan and General Ortega, they bring the heart of the film and sort of the normality, what you would hope that a normal person would do if we were presented with a unicorn, you know. And General Ortega brings the heart of the film. And without her, you wouldn't have half as many sweet scenes as you do in the film. There is quite a lot of niceness between Ridley and the unicorn and the other events that unfold.
Unicorns used to be seen like these divine monsters because people fully believe that they could heal literally anything.
Richard E. Grant is bonkers. I don't know if I've actually ever seen him play a sane role in a film. I feel like he's kind of up there now with Hugh Grant in this sort of like bonkers stratosphere of acting. But he plays this power-hungry millionaire very well. Like I said, he seems to play it very often, but he's money greedy, he's eccentric, and he does exactly what he needs to do in this film.
It's an opportunity for immortality.
Tia Leone is essentially his parrot throughout the whole film, and just does whatever he says and whatever he wants her to do. She has no backbone, and she is, as the film goes on, you find out how spineless she is of a character, and how she'll basically just keep throwing people under the bus as long as it's not her. Will Poulter is a very funny character in this film. He just wants to have a good time. His ideas and what he does throughout the film are just, it's like he's like he's in his own little world and his own little atmosphere, and he's just like, he's drinking, he's having a good time, he's getting in the jacuzzi, he's just having a good time, and he's sort of like a bit of a breath of fresh air in the film. So to talk a little bit more about the plot, though, I did have a couple of problems with it. Like I said, very funny and good tension, and it is a good film, but I felt that the last scene dragged on a little bit too long. I felt it's an hour and 47 minutes, but I think it could have quite easily been an hour and a half. I think the last act goes on slightly too long, and it's not really predictable. I didn't know what was going to happen, but I feel like it should have got to its conclusion a little bit sooner, so you don't have to go through this. If you've seen it, you'll kind of know what I mean, and if you watch it, you'll know what I mean. It goes on slightly longer than it needs to, and it keeps sort of drawing the same idea out for quite a while. The ending is really sweet, however. I did enjoy the ending, I just wish it had come a little bit sooner. There was some stuff in the film to do with northern lights and storms and things like that, which are half explained, but they also kind of feel like half-cooked ideas, which just sort of annoyed me a little bit. I mean, they represent the coming of change and things like that, but I just wish they'd been explored a little bit more. And the other problem I had was Ridley finds a link between the unicorns and something very close to her, but it's a very loose thread that they choose to sort of base her character's premise on, and I just felt it would have been nice if it had had a little bit more weight to it, or it had been backed up a little bit more by something else. But those are really my only problems with the film. Like I said, there's a message here about the nature and the environment, how some things should be left alone. I found this was really interesting. So the director, Alex Sharfman, I don't know, I've never said his name before. He directed a film in 2017 called Trophy, which is all about the illegal game trade in Africa and in the US and the illegal killings of animals. And the poster for that is a rhino. So I just assumed that there was sort of a metaphor for the film, and actually no, there being the director having made something all about the environment and killing sacred creatures, specifically sacred creatures with a horn. I think there is supposed to be slightly more of a message to this. I'm going to say it, you knew it was coming. It's an A24 film. I flipping love A24. I would just continue to watch all their stuff until... Well, I don't, even if it goes bad, I'll keep watching it because at least it's interesting and it's original. So to wrap it up, really fun to watch. Some interesting visuals in the film as well, and it was cool to see the unicorns represented in a different way that you don't see in like sort of your like Narnias and your typical Disney films. Even the unicorns seem to have some kind of code between them. So it was interesting to see a unicorn represented in a different way. I would give it 4 stars for enjoyment, but 3 stars overall. And that's Death of a Unicorn.
Aren't you the most magnificent thing?
Called it. There's no negotiating with monsters.
And on to our next film, and that was The Amateur. So I'm buzzing about this film, absolutely buzzing about this film. I had medium to low expectations going in. I don't think the trailer did it enough justice, and I actually, because I'd already written this, I knew what I was going to say. I did look at a few reviews for this one, and it seems as though it was something like 1 in 15 or 1 in 20 reviews felt the same about it that I do. Everyone else is like 2 stars, 3 stars. Only one other person has given this what I have given it. I'm not going to tell you yet because that would be spoiling the big reveal at the end. But it seems to have gone sort of unnoticed and unloved, which I am baffled by. Genuinely baffled by. So, The Amateur, starring Rami Malek, he plays Charlie Heller, who's a very mild-mannered, polite man who works for the CIA in their like code cracking and data analysis. He's a tech guy, he's a computer guy, he sits behind the desk. He would be your equivalent of Q in the James Bond films. That's the easiest thing I can relate this to. I also realise I've spoken about James Bond and John Wick, obviously linked to Nobody from last week, but I've spoken so much about action films at the moment, and this one deserves to be up there with him. Anyway, so he's the tech guy, and one day he finds out that his wife Sarah, while on a trip in London, has been taken hostage in this deal gone wrong and killed. Charlie decides to take it on his own back to track down the killers and punish them himself. But can he do it? Okay, so to go through the whole cast, so Rami Malek you'll know from Bohemian Rhapsody, Mr. Robot, and my favourite book of all time, Papillon. Obviously, it's the film adaptation of Papillon. It's the second adaptation. The original adaptation with Steve McQueen and Dustin Hoffman, I would say slightly better, but he's in the remake of it. Oscar nominated, Oscar won, actually. Rami Malek is a fantastic actor, and I wish we saw him in more leading roles like this. I just don't know. I want to see more of Rami Malek because I think, although he has had recognition, I think he deserves more. You have Rachel Brosnahan is his wife. She's obviously quite a limited role in the film. She comes back through a series of flashbacks during it, which are tasteful and well done. But you don't see her a huge lot. But she's in Orange is the New Black and House of Cards. Lawrence Fishburne is sort of the other co-leading, leading man. The Matrix, John Wick, Boys in the Hood. Very, very well known. You recognise him instantly. John Bernthal, probably best known for his work as the Punisher, one of my favourite Marvel characters. He's also in The Wolf of Wall Street and Fury. Fury's a brilliant, brilliant war film. I think it does get a fair amount of recognition, but it definitely doesn't get as much recognition as it could and as it should. Fury's an excellent, excellent film. Katrina Balfe, again, a name I've never said before, but she's in Le Mans 66 and Outlander. Another brilliant film, Le Mans 66, one of my favourite films of all time, or Ford versus Ferrari, as you might know it. And James Hawes is the director, who also did One Life and like mostly TV stuff like Black Mirror, but he directed One Life, which came out January of last year. Really, really true, like emotionally moving true story. So quite a talented director, and he doesn't let down with this. So genuinely, honestly, one of my favourite films to come out this year. No doubt about it. One of the best action films to come out in a few years, I think, as well. I honestly don't think many people are going to agree with me on this, but I thought it was a brilliant, brilliant film. I mean, you should agree with me, but if you don't, well, I don't know. I don't understand why you wouldn't enjoy it. I can't. It's a fantastic action film. It's interesting. It's ingenuitive, and the action throughout the whole film, it doesn't get boring. And I even in films that I'm enjoying quite often, I'll think, oh, how much longer is there of this? Like, how long have I been in it for? What time's it going to wrap up? It didn't happen to me once. I was so enwrapped in the film from the start to the end, and it was so entertaining to watch.
You ever wonder what they do with all the stuff you dig up for them?
That's not my job.
No, but you never wonder?
No, it's the CIA. I gotta trust that they'll make the right call. Maybe it's better not to know.
Love you.
Love you.
Bye.
Bye.
There's no overuse, and I'd only really noticed this after watching this, and it's something that I think does sort of curse action films, and that's that they always use guns. I mean, I'm going to sound a little bit like Heath Ledger's Joker in Dark Knight here, because he talks about he doesn't like to use guns, he'd rather use a knife, because then you can see the emotion like drain out of their face, like you can see who they really are. And when you do use a gun in an action film, it's really instant. There's no process there. And because Rami Malek's character Charlie, he is a tech guy. He doesn't want to kill. There's a big thing in the film that he's not particularly good with pulling the trigger, and his aim is god awful. So he shouldn't basically, but he brings a level of sort of a different level of like morality to the killings. He wants to give them a chance to redeem themselves almost. It's a very well thought out film, and it doesn't get boring at any point. It's also adapted from a novel of the same name, which doesn't surprise me because the story plays out like a book, but it plays out in a way that makes so much sense. It's clearly been well thought through, like I said, in the book form. And you're not leaping from ledges to try and understand the story. It's just like breadcrumb, breadcrumb, breadcrumb. And I'm eating it up the whole time, and I'm enjoying it. You know, I'm gobbling down that bread.
Charlie, I think you need to see this.
What is this?
Your wife has been killed.
It's very well acted by Rami Malek. He shows all these signs of grief throughout the whole film. And like I mentioned earlier, they have these flashbacks during the film where his wife comes back to him and she makes him a drink, or she sits next to him, he sees her in a window and things like that. And it's like a nice reminder of why he's doing what he is. It keeps showing you his motivations so you're not lost at any point during the film. And it gives his character grounding and meaning in everything he's doing, and it just gives the film sort of another layer of depth, really. It's also really, really interesting to see someone with not all the skills. He doesn't have everything under his hat, and he's not like, he doesn't have, so in James Bond he has the brains and a bit of the brawn, but he doesn't have 100% of both. He's not always the biggest, he's not always the smartest. I get the feeling in shows like Reacher, though I haven't seen it, so don't scream at me, that he kind of has the best of everything. You know, he's not only is he huge and strong, but he can also hack the code and work the computers and everything like that, which I find very repetitive in films when the main character can do everything. You know, it's like the Captain Marvel problem in the Avengers films. When you bring someone in that's so powerful to any film, it's kind of like, well, what's the point? Like, there's nothing that can stop them from doing whatever they want. So there's not really a story there anymore. They're just kind of like walking all over everyone. But because Rami Malek is the tech guy, he has to focus on his strengths. And the relationship you get between him and Lawrence Fishburne's character is like, Fishburne is your more sort of typical Bond, and he's like Q, and it's like Q trying to outsmart Bond the whole film. And their chemistry on screen is actually really, really enjoyable.
Take it. Take it! Aye. Point it at my chest! Do it now! Put your finger on the trigger. You can't do what I do no matter how much I train you. You're just not a killer, Charlie.
John Bernthal doesn't have a huge role in the film, which really surprised me. He really only has like 2 or 3 scenes. And I wish he had been in it more. I like John Bernthal. Katrina Balfe is very good. I can't spoil her role, but for the time that she is on screen and the interactions that you have with her character, I really, really enjoyed her. I thought she added another layer of story that I wasn't expecting at all, and she shows another kind of grief in the film. There's just a lot of layers to the film that that I can talk about, and I would hope that everyone can enjoy and appreciate. There was only one thing, that the last act, there was a very small thing that I think was predictable, but then I think it was made in a way that it was going to be predictable. I don't think that they were trying to hide this detail from you, because I don't want to say, but it's repeated more than once. So when it's repeated, it's like, okay, this seems obvious, but it's also, for the playoff of the film, kind of has to be obvious. Not an unnecessary amount of exposition or over-explanation as well. Like I said, the story plays out nicely, everyone's well written, and there's nothing that's just like, there's no point, for example, he's driving along and he's saying, I have to drive along at this speed to get to this time. It's just, the film just plays out how it plays out, and you really are just along for the ride. There are some subtle tells in the film to do with like foreshadowing as well. Coffee is a big but quiet theme in it that I picked up on. Not going to spoil what it is, but if you look out for the coffee and how coffee's made and presented in the film, it tells you a lot about the character as well, which I just thought was very interesting. It's paced well, some really great chase scenes, which I often find sort of define action films. It's got a really good chase scene in it. And I also thought it was very, like, a nice added detail that the character Charlie wears the same suit every day. Whereas if you were going to work, you would change what you were wearing so that people didn't think you've been wearing. So he doesn't care. He's he's out of the norm. He's out of the box. He doesn't care that he's wearing the same stuff every day. And it shows how well they've made the character, both in the book and on the screen. And I would say there's one particularly nice shot of him. He's in a different country, and it's shot from behind, and the sun's going down in front of him. It's well shot. It's well made. I think it was a great film. It's paced well. I didn't get bored. It's a 5-star film. I don't say that lightly either. I do not give out 5 stars very often, but I was so happy with what this film produced, how it looked, what it said. It's such a good film. I hope they never touch it again. I think they could, but I really hope to God they don't, because it would tarnish the idea of the first one and how special it is. It's a 5-star film, and that's The Amateur. And on to our final film.
So, what's your deal?
My deal? I'm just a regular guy with a regular job, but I've got this condition where I don't feel pain. Hey, there we go.
Oh my God, you're a superhero.
No.
And that film was Novocaine. So I looked this up, straight away it came up. Novocaine is a sort of the on-sale term for a local anaesthetic in America, which makes a lot of sense because the film is predicated around a guy called Nathan Kane who cannot feel any pain. So it's a good title, obviously. Nathan Kane, Novocaine, they're a combination of the two words as well. I like the title, I thought it was good anyway. So he is a lonely bank manager. Nathan Kane is played by Jack Quaid, who you'll know from The Boys and Companion, which we spoke about a few weeks ago. He's a lonely bank assistant manager who falls in love with the secretary of the bank. After the two spend the night together, they go on a date, they spend the night together, it's all very romantic. They come to work the next day, and he's plucking up the courage to go and talk to her and tell her how important the night was to him, when the bank gets stormed by 3 very, very angry Santas, and they're making a withdrawal. They're robbing the bank.
Amazing.
and then his beloved Sherry gets kidnapped, and it's all up to Novocaine to get her back. So main cast, as I said, Jack Quaid, Amber Mid-Thunder, which is also a very, very cool last name, Mid-Thunder, plays Sherry, the secretary. She's been in Prey and The Last Airbender live action. Jacob Batalon, you'll recognise if you've seen the most recent Marvel films. He plays Roscoe, and he's been in all 3 of the latest Spider-Man films, and Tarot, which was a horror film that I did watch. It was okay. And Ray Nicholson is Simon, and he's been in Smile and Licorice Pizza. So Simon is like the head bad guy of the 3. I haven't included the other 2 because their roles are pretty minor in it, but the other 2 are brothers. They're quite well acted. I wouldn't say this particularly... The acting in these kind of films, from the off, you can tell is not really the focus, you know. Your likes of, again, to talk about John Wick, you're not there for the acting, you're there for the action. And the film does provide you with plenty of action. It's just... It's a shame that obviously most of the budget must go on getting Jack Quaid in the sort of casting finances. So while the others are good, there's nothing particularly special about them. It's a fun story. It's a fun film to watch. I have to come clean about something, and I was wild with rage last night. 'Twas like a bull, and I was in the cinema, and there was a group of lads, teenagers, hooligans, you might call them, behind me, who were causing a right ruckus. They were screaming and jumping and punching each other, starting arguments with everyone. Obviously not myself. And just, like, honestly, for the entire length of the film, laughing, giggling, jumping over seats, it did my head in. So it did pull me away from the film slightly. So don't let that affect my review too much, but I would say take it into account because it really did ruin my usual viewing experience. But it's a fun film. It's got a lot of creative action in it. It's very similar to Nobody, that it's an unusual guy sort of plucked out of his normal day to play the hero and pursue his destiny. So it's fun in that you get to see someone different taking his life into his own hands and going after the girl. Playing with the idea of someone not feeling pain is very interesting in a film as well, because obviously, you know, pain, not only is it a motivator for everyday humans, but in a film, pain and internal and external is a big motivation for characters. And him not being able to feel any pain was very weird, because he can get hit and stabbed and all the rest of it. And although an actor has to act that he feels pain, he has to act that he doesn't feel pain, which is like it's like a catch-22, although he actually isn't feeling pain. Because it's just a film, he actually has to act that he's not... I don't really know how else to try and describe what I'm trying to say, but it's quite a good bit of acting from him, because he still has to show that he's bleeding, or occasionally that, you know, something is broken or whatever. So he still has to show that, though he can't show that he's in pain. It makes for a very interesting torture sequence later on in the film, but I just thought it was quite an interesting film that the protagonist can't feel pain, but he's going to be in a lot of it in the film. The story is pretty well strung together and simple to follow. There's a twist or two along the way, but I wouldn't say it's not a particularly spectacular film. I enjoyed it for its action, but the story is limited. Like I said, the action in it is good, but the performances are limited. You know, it's a fun film. It's a film to go and watch and just relax and enjoy yourself. You don't have to particularly engage your brain with it. It does just go from A to B to C. It does make sense how he gets there. I do actually quite like sort of the investigation, the investigative work he has to do to track down the bad guys. But it doesn't, there's not a lot of depth to it. It is just sort of like skimming along the surface the whole way. But the writing's quite poor. There's quite a lot of exposition, and there's a lot of explanation of what's happening and what's going on. And I really didn't like about the writing. They were trying to make it like a Deadpool style Ryan Reynolds. And Jack Quaid is supposed to be playing like it's almost like he's trying to play like a Deadpool, funny, cracking, Ryan Reynolds type role, but also the main bad guys as well. I don't know if they're supposed to be trying to show like some similarities between the two. I'm not really sure, but I'm a bit fed up of the wisecracking villain role. I don't mind it so much in the protagonist, but the wisecracking, very unserious villain role, it's just, I don't know, it feels like it takes away from the fact that he's supposed to be a villain. They need to make villains scary again. Villains are supposed to be the worst of the worst. They need to be that, you know. When you think of all the best villains in history, your Voldemorts, Darth Vaders, No Country for Old Men, if you've seen that. But all of your most famous villains in history are terrible people. They do the worst. They're not funny. They're serious. They want to blow the world up. They want to kill the girl. You need serious villains. I know it's not supposed to be too serious of a film, but I still think villains need to have an element of seriousness to them. And I feel that kind of takes away from the film if they're not, if it's too overplayed, like I think it is. Like I said, Jack Quaid is quite good in the role. Being in a show such as The Boys has probably got him very used to being around gore and acting for CGI and things like that. So he's quite good in it. Jacob Batalon, he doesn't really show up till later in the film, but he's good.
Heads up! Oh, sorry. It's fine.
He's sort of the sidekick again in the film, but he plays it well. He's a cheery fella to see on the screen, and he does breathe a bit more life into the film by being there. Amber Midthunder's pretty good in this. She's the damsel in distress. She gets kidnapped, and between her and Jack, they do have a very believable romance. It's not the best because you don't get to see it evolve much, but it's believable enough for what the story wants you to think. Ray Nicholson is, like I said, he's very standard. So he's Simon. He's the main bad guy. He's a very standard bad guy. He walks the walk, and he is a villain, but he's a bit too jokey, and I think, like I said, I think it's just slightly too overplayed. But overall, it's a fun film. There's nothing particularly amazing about it. If you want to go and have a laugh and just enjoy watching a film, I would recommend it because it does fill those shoes nicely. But there's nothing outstanding about the film. It's fun, it's lighthearted, the gore is good, and the story is very simple to follow. I would give this film 3 stars for enjoyment, but 2 stars overall. And that's Novocaine.
So those are definitely 3rd degree, so you're gonna want to run it under some cool water.
Look at you, now look at me. Look at you, now look at me. How you like?
Hey man, you okay?
How you like?
Novocaine? It is you! I thought you'd be dead by now.
Well, I'm not.
It's fucking Novocaine! And he's not fucking dead!
Well, there we have it. Another week done. Episode 7. I can't believe I've actually been doing this over 2 months now. Over 2 months worth of content. There's been a huge amount of support out there at the moment. Thank you so much for all the comments. I really, really appreciate it, and I feel very supported and inspired to continue this journey, much like Christopher Columbus did when he found America. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed all the reviews. I'll be back next week with even more, and that's the AJ Review Show. Hi guys, if you enjoyed watching, please drop me a subscribe down below, leave a like and a comment. If you look up AJ Reviews 101 on Instagram, drop me a follow on there, and the letterbox is just the same. That's where I leave all my longer reviews. Thank you very much for watching.